right, everyone. So today's movie review is Strike from 1924 from Sergei Eisenstein. You may know him from his film Battleship Potemkin. And this movie right here is his first film and an early example, especially during the silent era, of what a propaganda film is like. And so now let me show you the plot according to the critic list description. Workers in a factory in pre-revolutionary Russia go on strike and are met by violent suppression. All right, so let me share my thoughts on the plot. So the plot, I actually gave it a 4 out of 5. I thought I think Sergei Eisenstein, he's well known for his crazy and insane visuals and editing style and montages and whatnot. He's very good and very excellent at that. But I actually thought some of the characters were pretty intriguing in this, especially the ones like, I want to say one of them's named like Monkey, Fox, like those guys. It was a very funny introduction to them. But they're also interesting characters, they're kind of on the inside, right? But story-wise, it kind of just shows what it was like in pre-revolutionary Russia. Now, I know it is a propaganda film, so I don't know to what extent it's true and whatnot. I don't know a whole lot about this era. Quite frankly, I don't know a lot about Russian history in general, just kind of basic stuff. But nonetheless, though, I was pretty engaged with the story. I thought it progressed very well. It kind of ended, in a very kind of dark spot with the soldiers at the end, kind of killing everybody and slaughtering them. And I love the visual. It's pretty gruesome, but I love the visual of the cow being slaughtered as all the people are being shot down and whatnot. He's just loads his films with lots of visuals like that. That kind of gets you, feeling like, oh man, this is horrible and whatnot. It invokes an emotion in you, and I think he does very, very well here, and that's why I gave it a 4. It's not perfect. I will say I would have liked more engaging characters that we see throughout the film. There's a couple of them. But really the main focus of watching this film and the story is kind of overall how it affected so many people. So anyways, that's why I gave the plot a 4 out of 5. Okay, for acting, I also gave it a 4 out of 5. I thought most of the actors were really good, but there's no one that really stood out to me because we didn't really connect with any of the characters. They're all, I would say, a little bit more one-dimensional in that we just see, a character and he makes a crazy face or whatever. We don't get to know who they are as people, really. It definitely is more so like little hints of characters where we'd be like, oh, okay, I know somebody kind of like that, or oh, I relate to somebody like that. They're kind of more of avatars for the audience, if that makes sense. So the acting was good, but there was no real standouts to me. Everybody was kind of on the same level acting wise, but it's still excellent. I mean, the style of acting from the silent era is always so interesting to me, just how they can evoke so much emotion with just their eyes and just their movement and whatnot, and how animated they could be. It's very theatrical. It's a very theatrical style of acting, so I give it a 4 out of 5. Alright, let's move on to the directing. So that's Sergei Eisenstein there. I always thought he looked kind of crazy with his poofy hair like that. I gave the directing a 4.5 out of 5. I thought he did a really good job here, like I was mentioning, with how he was invoking the emotions, especially by the end with the different camera angles and the different, like the cow being slaughtered, or like the visuals of people dying, and it's always kind of quick. I wouldn't say gore, because it's not really gory at all, but it's quick, shocking visuals. He did a fantastic job here, and he really led all those people. There's thousands of people, it seemed, by the end of it. Just this huge crowd of people. He did a really good job of telling them what to do and putting them in their place. No one stood out, or anything in it stood out to where I was like, oh yeah, this is just a movie. Like, it felt really real. Because they were outside a lot. There's no real set pieces. It was all like real locations, it looked like. And just the grime of the characters in the factory and whatnot, and the railroad tracks that they were using. it felt real. Like it felt like we were really in the grime of it all with the characters. So he really captured that very, very well. So that's why I gave him a 4.5 out of 5. All right, let's move on to cinematography and special effects. 5 out of 5. It is so amazing, even for nowadays. I love at the very beginning, we're introduced to a character, but it's like an animal first, so like a monkey, and then it fades and it turns into the real guy, and that was really cool. Some of the camera angles, it was disturbing, but some of the camera angles near the end of like the soldiers on horses chasing the people and going up into their apartments and whatnot are pretty striking and pretty crazy. The factory scenes were crazy. All around, the camera work was just so good, and I also love the visual of like the wheel turning, and sometimes there were title cards that were kind of moving around too that were animated. It was really, really cool. I loved it. 5 out of 5. Amazing stuff. Probably the highlight of the film, honestly, for me. That's kind of why I watched the Sergei Eisenstein films. I'm no Soviet or anything like that, but I do love the visual effects. It's the strong suit of his movies, for sure, with this and Battleship Potemkin. So yeah, that's why I gave it a 5 out of 5. Okay, the music. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. The version I saw, I think, was the Kino Lorber version. I didn't research it, but I'm pretty sure it's the original score. But you never know. What is here is pretty striking and whatnot. I do think the music in Battleship Potemkin is better. That score I do know for sure is from it. It's more foreboding and more, intense and whatnot. In this movie, not as much. It's not as memorable as that one, at least for me. So that's why I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. And also because I don't know if the version I saw was the original or not. Alright, so tallying that all up, that brings my score to a 4.1 out of 5. My criticalist percentage to an 82%. So now let me break down my overall criticalist score. Graphic language, none. Violence, some brief gore from actual cow being killed. They actually cut a cow's neck, drain blood and all that. It was very gory, but very brief. There's a lot of dead characters, but no blood or anything like that with them. There's some characters who die in a fire. One of the characters is kind of drunk. It kind of screams as something falls on her. It's very brief, but horrifying. All around, though, the violence, while brief, kind of does scar you a bit. But it's not gory, really. It's very, very brief violence. Very surprising for a film from the silent era, for sure. And I guess that reminded me a lot of Battleship Potemkin. Same thing. It was pretty gory and pretty intense, too, for a silent film. It's crazy. Alright, in regards to nudity, sexual content, none. Political bias, this is a Soviet propaganda film, so this is very, very left-leaning. What's interesting to me is when I watch these movies, and the more I've studied about, like I said, I don't know a whole lot, but when I have studied about the Soviet era, it's very interesting how effective propaganda can be. I mean, we are all guilty of it. We all see it nowadays too, especially. But it's very interesting how you can sway emotions with just visuals, right? Like with the movie here. I don't know with this film, but I do know with Battleship Potemkin, for example, the Odessa sequence at the end of the film where the soldiers coming down shooting and whatnot, that actually never happened. So that's pretty interesting. But it was effective, right? It's also interesting because this movie is made after the revolution's already happened, right? It's kind of a retrospective looking at, oh, isn't it great how we're so much better than when we were in the grimy, what do you call it? In the factories and whatnot. And yet, so this movie came out in 24. Well, in I think it was 21, there was a major famine and lots of people died. Lots of people died in the revolution too, with the White Army and against the Red Army and whatnot. It was very devastating. So I imagine a lot of these films were kind of trying to regain public trust. It's like, hey, remember this? Hey, remember, how crazy it was before the revolution? I don't know if it was much better. That's just me personally. But anyways, it's a very left-leaning because it's Soviet propaganda. It's literally the textbook definition of left and propaganda. All right. In regards to family-friendly, not at all. I would not show a kid this. This is pretty disturbing film. Entertainment value, surprisingly, there were some funny moments in it. It was crazy. Some of the characters had some funny dialogue and funny scenes. It was kind of weird. Especially because Battleship Potemkin is just super serious, and this actually has some light moments in it. And I think I remember reading somewhere that a lot of people resonate more with this movie because it feels a little bit more like there's more people involved, right? We feel more connected to them. I could definitely see that. So then, overall, would I recommend this movie? I would, actually, for fans of video editing and filmmaking in general. It's a great example of what people were capable of in the silent era. Also, I think the main reason is to watch it for the visuals and the editing, not so much the characters or the dialogue or even the story, really. It's a pretty generic, basic story. I also think everybody should see this. This gives a glimpse into how effective propaganda can be, especially in movies, and how the Soviets, despite their limitations as a nation, were able to make some pretty creative work here, like they did here. So I give all credit to Sergei Eisenstein. He was a very good filmmaker, a visionary filmmaker, and very creative filmmaker, which I think is very interesting, considering how it was at Soviet Russia, right? But yeah, I gave it a 4.1 out of 5. I recommend this movie, just on the fact of the visuals alone, but also for the other elements with it. All right, well, those are my thoughts on Strike from 1924, and that concludes today's movie review.